and welcome to another week. So today's topic is kind of serious and a little bit difficult to explain, so I'll just read what the person who sent us the topic requested, because they put it in so much better words than I could think of off the top of my head. Sometimes, sadly frequently, there's pressure in the asexual community to be sort of a gold star ambassador kind of thing. This requires you to have no negative or questionable quality that gives people reason to challenge your asexuality. For example, this unassailable individual is completely healthy without any, not even past, serious health issues of the mental, physical, sexual, or neurological variety, nor have they had any history of sexual or any other kind of abuse or neglect. They are an extrovert or very social introvert. They are cis, indifferent yet sex positive, and a non-libidoist. They are typically between the ages of 20 and 40, although over 23-25 is preferable in females for some reason. They must be able to get laid, aka being physically attractive, extrovert, socially skilled, etc. There are some versions that say the unassailable asexual has to be aromantic to make things easier, and others say that they are heteroromantic to prove that we are actually in fact capable of love. There is that pressure, perhaps not explicitly spoken, to be the highest level of asexual you can be when involved in visibility work. The pressure comes not just from within ourselves, but also the community at large and outside of the community. We are encouraged to play up those gold star attributes that we had and play down our quote-unquote failings. People have been told that they shouldn't come out because they have attributes opposite of those listed above that quote-unquote damage visibility efforts. This is harmful and silencing. How do we deal with this? I agree with the person who asked this request that all these things, this is harmful and it is silencing. And one thing in particular that stuck out to me is extremely harmful and silencing as far as visibility goes. Not just for asexuality, but it's the one about sexual abuse. This is a common misconception about sexuality, that somehow it's affected by whether or not you were sexually abused or if you were raised in a perfectly healthy environment. Because sexuality isn't something that, someone else can impose upon you. That's why so many of the programs out there that are supposedly meant to quote-unquote cure homosexuality don't work at all. But it's especially harmful because if people are told that they can't, come out about their abuse as a child, how the hell is anyone going to challenge that later on? How is anyone supposed to, challenge the misconception that it's not, that, your sexuality isn't dependent upon whether or not someone did something to you as a child? It's basically taking away your sexuality from you because it's all about, saying that someone else is in charge of who you are and your identity, not yourself, which is horrible. So what do we do about that? Here we go. When I was elementary school, there's an incident in my childhood that some people have classified as being sexually abused. It's some people, because when I've told multiple experts, multiple people about it, a lot of them have been like, which is kind of funny, that even then something, can't really be defined. Even something like that it has, boundaries, I suppose. But I don't feel like this incident is a defining part of who I am. It's just something that happened a really long time ago. I don't really feel it has an impact on my asexuality because it was one incident, and even though I remember it, there's so many other things that that make up who I am and make up who my decisions. And as far as I'm concerned, sexuality is, genetically predetermined with, some influences from the womb that can't really be changed just because one person did something or tried to do something to me that I completely, turned down. Yeah, so even when I was a kid, just so you know, I was like, fuck you. And I won. The danger with, I think a lot of people, when they don't want to, tell people that they've been sexually abused or abused at all in their childhood, is then people tend to look at them with a new light and say, you are a victim of abuse, and that is who you are, and that is what you will be, and that's horrible. No one should be defined by their trauma, by their horrible experiences, because there's so many other things that, that make us up. Like, I'm an artist, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a role model to my little cousins, I write things, I've done things that, make people feel better. I help older women across the street. I pick up garbage when I see it places. I do all these things, and if people are just gonna look at me and say, you were a victim, fuck them. I know how to gouge someone's eyes out in hand-to-hand combat. I know how to, rip off someone's ear. I know how to rip off their dick. I know how to do all these other things. And if someone's just gonna look at me and say, victim, then I'm gonna fucking punch their eyes out, It's just not me. Ugh. It's horrible. And, I think that's horrible that people should, we have a society that, wants to tell people to shut up and sit down and be quiet because when it comes to their trauma, because they don't want people to be defined by that. And I think that, if the more we tell people to, be quiet and not explain and not express that there were things in their past that they haven't been able to deal with per se, then they never will. And will continue the stigma of defining people by what has been done to them, what horrible things, they've had to go through, rather than being amazed at what they've become despite that, and how that they've been able to get away from that experience. And this shushing, so to speak, that has happened in not just the asexual community, but in any community that's marginalized or shut out or told that they aren't normal, anything like that, where they have those experiences, that those horrible things that happen to them, that, they're told that they can't talk about them because they aren't normal, and it might, make them give people a reason to say that they aren't normal. It's bullshit, And as far as how we deal with that, I think we need to be a much more accepting community and realize that we can't tell our own people to, deal with it on their own without a support group. Because that's the thing. We're a community and we're meant to be our own support group. We're meant to, talk to each other and say it's okay and it's gonna be better. We're meant to, connect and basically, be that community that hasn't been there for them because we aren't seen as normal. We need to be the ones to tell them that we are normal, that we're not strange, that we're not aberrant for all these horrible things that happen to us, that we aren't defined by our past, but we're defined by what we make ourselves, not what others have tried to make us. So how do we deal with those voices within our own community that are basically telling us that we can't, voice our opinions, our thoughts, our feelings, our realities? Well, we just voice them anyway. Because here's the thing. There's only so many voices, only so many stereotypes that people are going to be able to categorize in. When they see one person's video or one person's speech or thing, then they see in others, they're going to compare them. That's the truth. People like comparing things. But when they see more and more and they realize that, this isn't the reality, this isn't defining, this doesn't, this isn't a trend, it can't be something classified, because then they're going to start realizing that, they can't just say, they can't just dismiss it because they're like, aha, that person isn't as handsome as everyone else, or that person isn't, real this because they're, I don't know, not romantic enough or something. But that's the thing about visibility. You have, if anyone, the more voices are out there, the better for us, in all honesty. And if you want to, like, tell people that they can't be a voice, that's wrong. I live in America where you're supposed to be able to voice your opinion freely, as informed as possibly. But to tell people that they can't be a voice, they can't be their own voice in a community that's as diverse as ours, I mean, that's kind of dumb. And it's hurtful not just to that person that you're telling, that they can't speak, but it's hurtful to all of us. So that's my piece. And for all of you guys out there who just have had someone tell you those things, that they can't be a voice, their own voice, in the sea of voices for us that don't exactly fit them, I encourage you now to just speak up. Don't let someone tell you that you can't represent yourself, because you can, and you should. That's all.